Hi guys, Dustin here with another Star Trek, the official Starships collection video. Let me do a little explanation first. I know some of y'all are thinking, Dustin, has it really been 4 weeks already? Well, sadly is. Last week I uploaded the Vorsta class cruiser and the USS Enterprise. And what happened next? They turned that around and gave me 2 more ships next week, or the following week. So, what I am currently doing right now, I'm currently doing the Krenim Temporal Weapon ship, which is this one right here, and upload it tomorrow. And then the USS Nebula on the same day, and upload that on Thursday. And there's our ship as well. Anyway, I am not going to waste any more time. So let's get started. Anyway, this is issue 22. This ship is designed by the Krenim Imperium, launched in 22nd century, with a length of 1,550 meters and a max speed of warp 6. Always our table of contents. Operated by the Krenim Imperium. Constructed 22nd century. Destroyed in 2374. Length of 1,550 meters. Top speed of warp 6. Powered by the temporal core. Weaponry are temporal weapons, directed energy weapons, and the captain is Annorax. Alright. Here's the ship. This Delta Quadrant ship operated outside of normal spacetime to erase its entire species from history. This ship was constructed in some time prior to 2174 by an aggressive Delta Quadrant civilization known as the Krenim Imperium. Its design was spearheaded by Annorax, a brilliant temporal scientist, in response to a war that Krenim were fighting against the Rilnar. Realizing they were losing the war, could not hope to win and use conventional weapons, Annorax developed a ship equipped with a temporal weapon that could have the ability to wipe out entire races by removing them from time. The energy beam weapon, seen here, can eradicate an entire species by firing a chronoton energy beam of species homeworld. This pushed them out of the space-time continuum while leaving the planet intact. Any infected eliminated species had a history of other races, or on the galaxy was also removed from the timeline. As of its most powerful, the Krenim Imperium's territory included 200 star systems and 900 planets. That's a lot. While they also possess thousands of warp-capable vessels. The key to the Krenim Temporal Weapons ship's power was its temporal core. This kept it and everyone on board in a state of temporal flux and outside of the flow of normal time. It was also immune to all conventional weapons, while its crew did not age and were effectively immortal. The ship and the crew were protected from all threats while the temporal core was online, and as a result, the conventional shields and weapons were extremely limited and rarely used. Here's the main control room. It actually features huge screens depicting timelines of various elements, how they would interact with one another following a temporal incursion. The crew could spend months calculating the effects of the temporal weapon in a particular target, but their predictions were never 100% correct. The effects of the beam from the temporal weapon ship spread out a focal point, removing buildings, cities, even entire civilizations as it went. All that would be left was natural landscape, no signs that a species has ever existed. Now, imagine that firing on us. Let that soak in for a while. YouTube won't be here, I won't be here, I wouldn't be doing this. Nothing would be here. Let that soak in. Annorax was a brilliant temporal scientist and the commander of the ship. He's actually obsessed with returning the Krenim to her former glory while being reunited with his wife. His obsession consumed him to the point that he thought nothing of annihilating entire races. The temporal weapon was actually defeated after Annorax's own crew turned on him and took the ship's temporal core offline. So this phased the ship back to normal space-time, made it vulnerable to attack. Captain Janeway actually proved this by forced to ram the USS Voyager right into the side to ensure of its destruction. For 200 years, the Annorax and its crew tried to complete a total restoration of the original timeline. They had countless temporal incursions, racing dozens of species, including the Garanor, the Ramazad, Malkalt, and the Ozarin, but none of these efforts had desired effects. Yeah, the weapon ship was actually eventually erased from history itself when the Voyager led a small fleet composed of 2 Mawasi cruisers and 3 Neidron ships against it. Many of the crew aboard the temporal weapon ship become exhausted by Annorax's impossible demands. Led by Obris, the ship's second in command, crew shut down the core, causes the ship to phase back into normal space, making it vulnerable. Captain Janeway piloted the Voyager straight into the weapon ship, causing a temporal incursion with the ship itself and removing it from history. Here's the irony behind it. It's had the effect that Annorax had been trying to achieve all along. Removing the weapon ship from the timeline resulted in complete restorations of all Kremlin worlds, including Kenya Prime, and reunited Annorax with his wife. Here's the ship designs. The Museum of the Lost Treasures. Annorax described his ship as more than just a ship. Well, a weapon. He actually used it as a museum of lost histories. In his quarters, he kept hundreds of remnants and artifacts from some of the civilizations he had erased from time. These samples not only prove that these cultures had existed at all. For example, he kept a bottle of Macallian spirits, the only product left in the universe of this once powerful race. His most prized possession and treasured possessions, however, was a sealed glass pyramid containing a small lock of his wife's red hair. As you can see, the core of the ship was kept out of phase with the normal space-time meant that it was immune from conventional weapons. As a consequence, its regular shielding was incredibly weak, and Tom Paris determined a photon grenade would be enough to penetrate its hull. So here's the sides. You have the dispersal vent back here, the warp core conduits, control center and habitat, the shockwave ring, and the conditioners. Now as we look towards the front, you have the energy release tunnel. The timeline sensors are right up here, and the final stage accelerator right here. Now we take a look at the stern. You got the sensors for the warp field pressure, the momentum conditioners, and a stabilizer fin. So miscalculation when the weapon ship was erased. When the weapon ship actually erased the Garner species from history, it resulted in a timeline when the Krenim reverted to a pre-warp state, where their territory was reduced to just a few planets. Powerful sensors on the ship, on the temporal weapon ship, were capable of tracking the temporal wave as it moved along space, calculating the level of restoration to the original timeline in percentages. Over the years, being punished by time, Annorax became paranoid and unstable, believing that time held a personal grudge against him. He thought time was angry with him for trying to manipulate it and was taking its vengeance on him by withholding his wife, denying him a happy future. I would hate it if that happened to me. The warship right here, they're about 500 meters long in imposing presence. They're actually aggressively protect the Krenim space. So Eagle Moss, when are y'all going to produce these? Because these are pretty cool. Let us know. Make it happen. When the Voyager first encountered these, they were operating small vessels that pose a little threat. These ships actually has a crew of just 15, capable of low warp speeds and limited armaments. Your foreview right here. The torpedoes were launched from a large elliptical port at the front of the craft. It's right up here. Dorsal view. The fuselage is made of forward command pod, large rearward engineering section, and two nacelles. The front section of the ship contains bridge and the personnel decks. The aft view, we're nearly 50% larger than Voyager. This patrol ship, it'd be cool if Eagle Moss actually did both the warship and the patrol ship. The patrol ship actually has identical hull markings to the warship. It's much smaller, much less powerful. Before the temporal weapon ship destroyed the Zali homeworld, the Krenim operated smaller patrol ships. They were actually the Krenim themselves were no less belligerent in this timeline. They were equally fierce, protecting what they considered to be their region of space. Their patrol ships were not capable of carrying out warnings issued by their captains, didn't stop them from threatening to destroy any vessel that entered their territory. At the aft view, 5 fins swept backward and forward, and narrowed to a thin bar that formed open framework around the rear of the drive section. Its dorsal view, the front housed the primary sensors array and the command bridge. The central section had 4 equally sized cylindrical units that held 4 warp reactors. The foreview, you got the main weapons emitter, the oval bow section fired blue bolts of energy. Designing the Year of Hell, one of my favorite Voyager episodes. This is the first sketch of the Krenim temporal weapon. It's actually the closest to finished design. Steve Berg actually called this a giant gun. With the Krenims using their ships to play havoc with timelines, the art and visual effects team had a chance to inflict some serious damage. Many stories begin the image of Year of Hell. Voyager's badly damaged. Hull torn, twisted by repeated attacks. Something that Ken Biller actually written third season episode Before and After. We show Kes traveling along the timeline. Along the way we glimpse a damaged Voyager for a few seconds. The image and the expression Year of Hell had stuck in Brandon Braga's mind. With the writing staff were discussing the big mid-season story, he'd return to it. The year, episode before and after also established that the future Voyager would be attacked by a race called the Krenim, who used temporal weapons. No one was sure exactly what temporal weapons were, so Braga and his co-writer Joe Minowski started to think about how time could be used as a weapon. Braga came up with the idea that the Krenim were using a Death Star-like weapon, which fired a beam that could wipe out a planet out of history. The story they developed became a two-part Year of Hell, and the two ships, the Krenim weapon and the damaged Voyager, can be the center of attention. Here's actually a drawing of Voyager from Year of Hell Part 2 in damaged conditions. There's your Mawasi ship impacts starboard side, explodes, wreckage impacts aft hull, breaking the spine of the ship. Kind of like what happened to the Titanic when she splits in half because you got all the water weight down and breaks her spine. At this point, Voyager is burning, sparks heavily with secondary explosions. Underside damage is similar, leaving one forward photon launcher undamaged. Exposed bridge protected by a force field. We've seen that from Star Trek Nemesis. The burn marks and other impact damage are not shown for clarity. Rick Sternbach actually showed serious drawings showing the different levels of damage Voyager would endure. Exactly how much damage would stage was discussed with the writers. You actually have the end of Part 1 damage condition, which ain't too bad, but once you get Part 2, looks like she took some serious beatings. As you can see, after the initial drawing, Steve Burke produced 3 different variations showing different versions, focusing element of the front. One undamaged Voyager models was created by Koji Kuramura, who had built the structure underneath the hull, including the rooms and structural frame members specified by Rick Sternbach. The final collision, the finale of the show, called for these two ships to crash into one another, wiping the Krenim's actions out of the timeline. Final battle was one of the most ambitious in the story's show's history. The ships literally collide, scraping alongside and one another and doing damage never before seen. This was one of the most complicated and visual effect shots we have ever attempted, but it started quite differently. And I gotta say, it's actually one of the most amazing effects ever. Voyager damaged. She's on her last ropes. Captain Janeway ordered ramming speed. Straight into the ship and erasing it from history. This show only made one appearance in Year of Hell Part 1, and it also didn't come back until Year of Hell Part 2. And it's only seen in Voyager. I will leave a link for these 2 episodes down in the description. The USS Voyager enters the region of space as claimed by both Zali and Krenim. Suddenly a massive space-time shockwave appears and somehow erases the Zali and makes the Krenim ships much more powerful. Following months see Voyager constantly attacked by the Krenim, and the ship's barely left functioning. When another shockwave hits, the Krenim ships become much weaker. But Voyager's reprieve is short-lived as a different, larger Krenim ship looms into view and attacks. And once you move on to Part 2, Chakotay and Tom Paris, who have been kidnapped and are aboard the Krenim ship, realize that behind these reality changing shockwaves. The huge ship has a temporal weapon that eradicates an entire species and thus change the timeline. Stop its commander, Annorax, from wiping out more species. Cherokee in Paris takes the ship's temporal core offline, leaving it vulnerable to conventional attacks. Voyager attacks but is repelled. Janeway is forced into a desperate kamikaze run. Here's some trivia facts. The actor Kurtwood Smith, who played Annorax in the Year of Hell episodes, actually appeared in 2 earlier Star Trek productions. He played the Ephrosian president of the Federation in Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, and the Cardassian Thrax in Star Trek Deep Space Nine, episode Things Past. Yeah, I think that's about it. If you heard that our internet is down, basically all services are down. Okay, let me explain something here. Alright? I'm sorry about that little static interruption. That was my TV. It went out. Bad news is our internet was down earlier tonight by Cox, and just what happened a few moments ago, our TV and cable went down as well. I'm sure also our phones are also down as well. It's probably a service issue right now from Cox. Probably when this video is uploaded, by the time this video is uploaded, he'll have that problem taken care of. Anyway, I am sorry and I apologize for that interruption. This video may be a couple of days late if the problem continues. This and of course the upcoming video, the USS Nebula. Actually Nebula class, not USS Nebula. I am so sorry. Anyway, I'm going to continue on. Alright. Anyway, the actor Kurtwood Smith, who played as Annorax in the Year of Hell episodes, appeared in 2 earlier productions from Star Trek. He plays Ephrosian president of the Federation in Star Trek VI, The Undiscovered Country, and Cardassian Thrax in Deep Space Nine, episode Things Past. The name Annorax is remarkably close to Professor Pierre Annorax, main character in Julius Verne's classic science fiction novel, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I actually never heard of that movie before. I heard it was pretty good. Name Annorax came from Pierre Annorax. Annorax's obsessional personality owes more to Captain Nemo, who is another character in 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Indeed, at one point Tom Paris refers to Annorax as Captain Nemo. A lot of good hidden references in Star Trek franchise. The episode Year of Hell Part 1 marks the introduction to the USS Voyager's astrometrics lab. It combines Starfleet and Borg technology to provide more accurate mappings and plotted a route back to Earth that took nearly 5 years off the journey. And just announced, our next issue is the Nebula class. Inside is an in-depth profile of the Nebula class, the 24th century Starship Starfleet ship that featured a distinctive and adaptable upper equipment module, how the design of the ship evolved, and the story behind the introduction of the Cardassians. So here's our graphic on the back. Let's take a look at the ship. the display stand is much. Speaks for itself. You must have this spear side that does not have these pods underneath. And let me actually put it up on here just to show you. So you have the center right here. I actually like the use of the temporal gray blue, light blue. These little pinstripes as well. This is the aft and this is the front. I'm probably gonna sneeze soon. Sorry. And these are your momentum conditioners. They actually have your shockwave ring. This is your dispersal vent right back here as well. Also your warp conduit units are these guys up here. You also have your habitat center right here in the center, and this is actually your Krenim base wave generator core. I like this ship. It's pretty cool. It's another piece to add in my adversary collection. And it displays real good. And of course it'll fall backward because most of the die casting is actually in the back than rather up front. As many times you actually have the die casting up front rather than the back, but this one is rather up front. Less. Anyway, the ship is pretty cool. I like it. A lot of details, a lot of Aztecing that you can actually see, and it looks pretty cool. It's usually hard to actually try to put this on. You gotta make it cooperate in order to display it. Anyway, I'm sorry that my internet connection and, of course, TV went out. Hope Cox will be able to get that fixed. Thanks a lot. And hopefully this video will be uploaded once that problem is solved. So, therefore, my name's Dustin, and I will see you when this video is uploaded. Hopefully.